Hello everyone, welcome back to channel again. So this is Cloud Institution, the best cloud training institution in Bangalore. So today in this video we're going to see one of the AWS series, that is difference between Hyper 1 versus Hyper 2 hypervisor. Okay, so this is based on AWS, and it's not only based on AWS alone, so it can be like any kind of a cloud or any kind of hypervisor, whatever they're using, they'll be using, like so what kind of what are the different technologies they're using to create their cloud, and what are the different technology they're using to create a multiple, so their own type of private clouds and all this stuff. Okay, so now if you can see what's the difference between type 1 versus type 2 hypervisor. So first of all, let's see what is hypervisor itself. Okay, so hypervisor is a technology, so wherein is going to be using as a virtualization. Okay, so it's a virtualization technology that is going to be used to create a virtual machines from the hardware. Okay, that's the hypervisor, right? So we are going to see like what is the difference between type 1 versus type 2 hypervisor, so that you'll be get to know so the difference, you'll get to know what is hypervisor itself in the later classes. So now we are going to see the answer. That the answer is going to be like this. Okay, so if it's a type 1 hypervisor, you'll be having the hardware, and then the hypervisor will be installed on top of the hardware directly, and then the VMs on top of that. Okay, so the type 2 hypervisor is nothing but the hardware, and then host OS, and then the hypervisor, and then VM1, VM2, and VM3. Okay, so we're going to see what is hypervisor itself. I'm going to write some kind of a diagram here. So we have different types of hypervisors out there. Okay, so as I mentioned, so type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. Okay, so let's say for example type 1 hypervisor this one, and type 2 hypervisor is this one. Okay, and this is type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. So here, what are we going to do is that let's say let's consider this is the rack. Okay, so this is the server rack. So hope you guys know about server rack, right? So look for servers, and there'll be server racks will be there. So this server rack will be consist of this consists of the cloud and infrastructure and hardware infrastructure of the data centers, right? So the collection of data centers is called as a so the regions, and availability zones and all this stuff. All these terms will be called. Okay, let's say for example we have a rack like this. Okay, so what are we going to do is that, so we are going to be installing one software over here. Okay, and also similarly we are having a server rack over here. Okay, so we are having a server rack just like this. Okay, I'm not writing it completely, but I have some kind of server rack. So it is full of server racks, so everything is kind of a service. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to install one software over here, and then I'm going to install one software over here as well. Okay, so the here I'm going to install one software, that software named Zen kernel, Zen hypervisor, or VMware. Okay, ESXi. Okay, and then so here I'm going to install one software. That software is going to be a Windows OS or Linux OS. Okay, so it's going to be Linux operating system. So we must be asking that this is not software, it's OS. Okay, so operating system itself is a software. Okay, so now we're going to be installing this operating system on top of this. Okay, so now I'm installing, this is the software. So what do you mean by this software is that, so this hypervisor, Zen hypervisor and VMware ESXi, and these two software will be able to share the resource directly to the virtual machines. Okay, so that is called type 1 hypervisor. For example, I have a hypervisor over here. Okay, if I can say hypervisor, so I'm installing hypervisor, and these servers will be able to work as a cluster. Okay, so these servers will be able to work as a cluster. Okay, so I've created a cluster of servers, and I've installed a VMware ESXi and hypervisor. So on top of that, now I'm creating a virtual machine. Okay, now I'm creating a virtual machine here. Okay, so on top of this I'm creating a virtual machine. So this is the virtual machines. Okay, I'm creating on top of this. So what is this hypervisor will be doing is that, so they will be able to share the hardwares directly to the virtual machines using this softwares. Okay, this is called type 1 hypervisor. What do you mean by type 1 means, so any software will be able to directly interact with the hardware, so get the hardware information and share to the virtual machines. That is called type 1 hypervisor. Okay, so what is type 2 hypervisor in this case? Now I've installed Linux operating system or Windows operating system. Okay, now on top of that I have to install another operating system here. Okay, that operating system can be a virtual box. Okay, so virtual box in Linux or so in Windows, that can be a really good example for type 2 hypervisor. Okay, so the virtual. Okay, if some of you don't know what is VirtualBox, please go and check in a Google that what is VirtualBox. We'll be installing the VirtualBox in every operating system of Windows or Linux. So if you are if you wanted to create a multiple multiple virtual machines on your own to practice, right? So that is called VirtualBox. On top of that, I'm installing all the virtual machines. Okay, so all the virtual machines will be deployed on top of this virtual machines. Okay, so this are virtual machines I'm just installing. So this is the virtual box, right? The virtual box. So now you see the difference. Okay, so this so in this, what we do is there is a hardware. On top of hardware, we are installing one software directly on top of this hardware, so that that software have a capacity and capability to share the hardware information, and they share the hardware resources to the virtual machines. That is called type 1 hypervisor. And type 2 hypervisor is like, so it doesn't have a capacity. The virtual box doesn't have a capacity to share the resources directly, but it has a capacity to talk to Linux OS. Okay, Linux OS again will talk to the hardware, and the hardware will be able to share the resources to the to the virtual machines. For example, if this machine want 1 GB of RAM, okay, so this machine want 1 GB RAM, 1 GB RAM. Okay, so 1 GB RAM and one vCPU, one one vCPU, vCPU, and then 10 GB hard disk. Okay, so the same thing here. If this guy wants the same thing, okay, so how this is going to be happening is that, so this guy will talk directly to this guy. Okay, this okay, sorry, this okay, this directly talk to this hypervisor will talk to this servers directly, and then the information can be shared directly via hypervisor to this virtual machine. Okay, but here what happens is that this machine, okay, will first talk to virtual box. The virtual box will talk to OS. Okay, so will talk to OS, and then OS will the hardware the hardware again will talk back to Linux OS, then the virtual box, and then it goes to the VM again. So what is, okay, if you can see this one, so and if you can see like the cloud computing called various cloud computing technologies. Okay, for example, if you go for AWS, or if you go Azure or GCP, okay, okay, so Azure. Okay, so Microsoft Azure, right? So MS Azure and the Google Cloud Platform. All this kind of cloud providers will be using Type 1 hypervisor only. Okay, so what is Type 2 hypervisor, and then so Type 2 hypervisor, there are many kind of private clouds that they're using Type 2 hypervisors. Okay, and then so for example, some kind of Oracle virtual machines and all these things, so they'll be creating a virtual box kind of a softwares. Then they'll be giving to the companies, that the company will be able to use this technology. And also most of the times this type 2 hypervisor will be used as a test virtual machines, so for a testing purpose, for the training institutions or some kind of individuals, they'll be using this kind of virtual boxes. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you understand what is this hypervisor and type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. Okay, so now you understand this diagram, right? Hardware, hypervisor, and then virtual machines. The hardware, host OS. Okay, so as you mentioned that here, the host OS is nothing but Linux OS or Windows OS. Okay, so host OS, and then on top of hypervisor, and then the VR virtual machines will be provisioned on top of this one. Okay, so I hope this you understand this concept. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us on this number, and please check our website if you want to enroll for any courses on cloud. Okay, so and please like, comment, share, and subscribe as usual. Okay, I'll see you again in the next video.